you guys can tell from the title of this video, we're going to make a lot of hull mods and intake mods to this ski to overall improve our engine performance. Before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys, if you enjoy the content that we produce and want to support us in any way possible, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you want to do more than that, don't forget to visit thegreenhulkstore.com, buy some parts from us, buy a t-shirt from us. We're constantly getting new t-shirts in. This one, we got the little Green Hulk square logo on the front. We've got the big Green Hulk logo going down the sleeve here. And on the back of it, we've got a big Green Hulk square logo and a hood. These are really nice shirts. These will actually help keep you cool and protected from the sun when you're out riding your jet ski. Definitely go over to the Green Hulk store, buy a shirt, and there you'll even find Riva Racing, Works Racing, Fizzle intercoolers, and OEM parts. And the majority of everything in our store will be available to you at a discount when you use coupon code GREENHULK at checkout. One of the most overlooked things on your high performance watercraft is going to be air circulation. An engine is really just an air pump. It takes air in, mixes it with fuel, ignites it, and expels it out the exhaust. So the more air that you can get into the engine and the more fuel you can add to that air, the more power that your engine is going to make. And from the factory, these skis come locked down pretty tight as far as air circulation goes. Manufacturers don't want novices getting on a ski, flipping it over, and then have the ski filled with water so fast that it sinks before they can turn it right side up. And I'm not a novice, and I'm not worried about water intrusion, so one of the first things that I do to any ski that I have is open it up so we can get some cool air coming in through the front, hot air expelling out the back. Then I like to do some air intake modifications to get the most optimal intake charge going to the engine. If you don't believe that your ski is starving for air, a quick test that you can do is go run it with the seat on, see your engine RPM and top speed, then run it with the seat off and see if there's an RPM increase and speed increase. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have an RPM and speed increase, but you're getting fresh air circulated in the engine bay, and your engine's going to be breathing in a much cooler, denser air charge. Every modification that I make for air circulation within the hull and improving my air intakes is with the goal in mind to get seat off performance or better while riding with the seat on. In this video, I'm going to use my GP1800R as an example because I spent a lot of time experimenting, getting cold air in through the front of the hull, getting hot air out the back, and improving my air intake itself. On the front of every single GP1800R is this massive fake hood scoop, and while it actually looks pretty cool, it makes the ski look aggressive and fast, I actually think it's kind of cheesy. I think any vent or hood scoop that is non-functional and strictly for looks is just a cheesy thing to do. And what I end up doing is cutting this open with a Dremel, and it turns this fake hood scoop into a functional hood scoop that gets plenty of cold air flowing in through the front of the ski. Cutting it really isn't so bad. I took a Dremel to it. I tried to follow the outline of this factory mesh appearance. I did leave this small portion in the front to add some additional support on the front of this, because if you do cut this out, the hood's going to wobble pretty bad here, but it's rock solid just like this, and I ended up doing both sides. Now there is a little bit more to this vent than what it looks like. You do have to take this entire hood apart. This piece here from the factory is just like a veneer. You do have to take it out. I would cut it on the outside of the ski, and then you have to come on the inside. There's a hood liner that has to be cut as well. If you look at the back side of the hood, this will be the liner. I cut this, sanded it all nice and smooth. It doesn't look too bad, and now we got plenty of air circulating through the front. If you end up wanting to take this air vent to the next step, what I would recommend doing is putting some holes in this bulkhead right here. That will allow plenty of air to flow into the hull and cool the hull temperatures down, but keeping water from splashing into it. I've actually ran this vent for probably about 2 years now. I have not had any issues with water coming over the front. Just sometimes when I'm in really rough water or I'm in rain, a little bit of water will splash into here, but it's not the end of the world. Doing this modification is going to allow lots of cool air to flow into the hull. From there, you want to go on and do an air intake. For most people, what I'd actually do is just use the Riva Racing power filter kit. That's going to place the filter right about here. It's far enough back from that front vent where no water is going to splash onto it, but it's still going to get lots of cool air going to it. That'll definitely reduce your intake air temperatures. If the Riva Racing power filter kit and the front air ventilation mod is just not good enough for you, the absolute best air intake situation is putting the inlet of the air intake on the outside of the hull and having the shortest route of intake tube possible. I really would have liked to have been able to turn the front storage compartment into a ram air box, because we have all that air flowing into the front of it at higher speeds, and having the air inlet right there just ramming all that air into it would have been ideal. But I do recreationally ride this ski. I do ride in some pretty rough water, and occasionally I will get some water splashing over the front just because of the situations that I do ride in. And I did not want to risk any water going into the air inlet itself. It's okay if it splashes in the hull, but sucking it directly into the air intake is not going to be ideal. What I ended up doing is putting this 4-inch velocity stack back here that's connected to a 5-foot long piece of Canaflex hose that's connected directly to my supercharger. Now that's going to allow the supercharger to pull in the coldest air possible directly from the outside of the hull. You don't have to worry about the intake sucking in air that's been heated up by the engine temperatures. So this is definitely going to be ideal for my situation. The 5-foot long intake tubing and not having the ram air effect from what I would get from a front air intake is a little bit at a disadvantage. But the overall air restriction here is going to be at a minimal. The low intake air temperature is going to make up for that. This intake actually isn't so hard to make. All I did was take this aluminum plate, I cut it to where it bolted up perfectly flush underneath the seat base, and I cut out a hole in the aluminum plate just for this velocity stack to go into. If we look at this intake on the inside of the hull, you can see the mid-wall delete that I have done really allowed for a lot of room for this intake. There's no crazy bend, minimal restriction, and then the tube wraps around my intake manifold, and then it'll loop around and connect directly to the supercharger. I've got cold, fresh air coming directly into the front of the ski and cooling down the engine bay temperatures. I've got my intake pulling directly from the outside of the hull. The only thing that I have left to do is make some modifications to the back of the ski to allow for the hot air that the engine heats up to expel out the back. It's a general rule of thumb that you want just as much airflow coming out of the back of the ski as you do coming into the front of the ski, because you don't want all that air coming into the hull and creating a parachute effect. Of course, that's going to depend on your air intake setup. If your air intake is within the hull, the supercharger and engine is going to process a lot of that air, so you don't need quite as much airflow coming out the back. But in my situation with my air intake pulling directly from the outside of the hull, I need to get a lot of airflow coming out of the back of the ski. The 2021 and newer GP1800Rs actually make it pretty convenient when it comes to modifying the back of the hull to allow that air to escape, because you do have a 2-piece deck design. The Nano XL top deck with the secondary plastic seat base here that is removable. And the seat base is going to allow me to hide the holes that I make in the back of the ski, and the finished product is going to be a really nice, almost factory looking appearance. We'll remove the seat base. I'm going to drill 4 4-inch holes in the back of this, and then we'll trim up the back of the seat base to create an air gap and allow all that airflow to flow out, but still retain a nice factory look. I took my hole saw and drilled some holes in the fiberglass. Now, before you guys think I'm crazy and I'm absolutely losing my mind for drilling holes into my very expensive jet ski, you guys got to see the finished product. If you just look at this, I mean, this almost looks factory. You can't get a better cut than this. I'm really happy with how this turned out. You can see my hand fits up in here without a problem. I'm actually sticking my fingers in the holes that I drilled right there. This will allow all of that air to escape out the back of the hull, really help keeping the engine bay temperatures down. And if you didn't know what you were looking at, you would never know that I cut that. That's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I appreciate all you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.